Nearly every business owner needs a presence on social media, but this can be a bit of a tricky subject for so many of us in the boutique fitness industry. And the fact is that often when it comes to social media, we feel a lot of pressure to do all things social media. And perhaps before you know it, you're spending a ton of time posting, making reels, editing things, taking videos, and you're constantly thinking about how you can snap the next post. And when you're doing all the things inside of your business already, you may not have time for that. And it might just be that thing that pushes you over the edge. So in this episode, we're going to get really super clear on how much time you should be spending on social media. Just a little spoiler alert for you. It's probably less than what you're spending right now.
Well, hi there, I'm Seran Glanfield. I'm a business and marketing strategist just for boutique fitness studio owners like you. If you're ready to be inspired and make a bigger impact, you're in the right place. All you need are a few key strategies, the right mindset, and some support along the way. Join me as I share the real-life insights that will help you grow a sustainable and profitable studio. This is the Pilates Business Podcast.
Welcome back to the Pilates Business Podcast. I'm Seran, and thank you so much for joining me here again today as we head full force into the spring season, at least where I am. The days are getting longer, there's a lot more energy and vibrancy around, and that all feels good, especially because today I'm talking about something that often tends to zap our energy, take our energy down, take a lot of our energy, and that thing is social media marketing. Now, this is a really big topic, and it's spans much more than I can fit into this particular podcast episode. But today I want to talk about social media specifically as it relates to our industry, the boutique fitness industry, and specifically about how you can make sure that you are not spending a minute longer than you need to on social media when it comes to your business, right? Now, I know we're all spending a lot of time on social media. If you get those screen time reports like I do every week, it's sort of like, oh my goodness, it's a bit of a shock when you realize perhaps just how much time you're spending on social media. But when it comes to your business, we really can't deny that there is a value to it. Now, I want to dive in today to some of the things that we can be doing to make sure that every moment that you're spending on social media for your business, you're using optimally. Whatever you decide to do outside of that with your personal time is totally up to you. And I know that, I speak to studio owners every single week who have sort of varying relationships with social media. But I think for the most part, we all tend to feel like we wish we'd spent less time on there, but we're influenced by it. We enjoy parts of it. We want to engage with people on there. And so it has a place in our lives. And the reality is it's probably not going anywhere. So we should be taking some measures perhaps to make sure that we are using it as optimally as we could, especially, like I said, when it comes to your business, right? Now, there are a couple of statistics that I want to share with you that were put together by Vertical Response. The first one is that 63% of small business owners spend somewhere between 1 and 5 hours per week on social media. Okay, 1 to 5 hours per week on social media. So that's just a little less than an hour a day, which is kind of an interesting statistic to think about where you kind of sit in that. And this is more from a business perspective. Again, I just want to remind you that this is not total, but around an hour, just under an hour a day, 63% of small business owners tend to spend on social media, but a third of those want to spend less time on social media than that. My guess is, though, they still want their social media marketing to be as effective as possible, which is what we want. We want to spend as little time on doing the thing and getting the most out of it, right? And that should be all of our goals, which is why we want to make sure that we're being smart about the strategies that we're using on social media, how we're using the platforms that we're using, which platforms we're using, and so on. And I'd imagine that to get to a goal where you're spending less time on social media, but it's still doing the work for you, then we have to think about a few things, right? Number one is how effective social media really is at making money for your studio. And there is not one single answer to that. I will say that it really does depend on so many different factors. Number one being your business model, and a lot of other factors to consider as well. But you want to think about how effective social media really is at making money for your studio and knowing what its role is in generating revenue for your business. And then we want to also think about which social media platforms we want to spend, or you want to spend your time on, because there are many out there and the numbers are growing. There is more and more platforms coming into the mix. And so how do you know which ones will be the best ones for you to focus on? And should you be everywhere, right? This is also another question that comes up a lot from studio owners. And then perhaps one of the most important things we can do for our businesses and ourselves is to systematize the process of posting to social media so that it costs you and your studio less time and less money, right? Because we know that time is equal to money, especially in this industry, which we are service-based and delivering services often one-on-one or one to a few people, right? So we want to make sure that how we are creating content and putting content out there is a process that has been fine-tuned and is simple and easy to implement, and perhaps even possible to delegate to other people, right? So let's talk first of all about how effective social media is at making money for your studio. Okay. Now, I would say that one of the most important activities in your business is marketing. Why is that? Because marketing is how you get visibility for your brand. Marketing is how you engage with people who are not yet your clients. Marketing is how you share the message that you have to share with the world. Marketing is how you get your name out there. And marketing is how people find you, right? Is one of the ways that people come across you is through your marketing activities. And it's essentially what leads to money coming into the business, right? Now, the reality is that your marketing activities don't necessarily immediately bring you increased revenue. Okay, so one of the most frustrating things about marketing truly is that it doesn't, if you do it once and you did it on Monday, say, it doesn't immediately mean that on Monday you're going to get an increase in your revenue, right? We want to make sure that you are consistent with your marketing most days of the week, most months of the year, right? And that means that in order for when you do that, you then see an increase in your revenue over time, right? And it's not often this huge jump or spike immediately. Sometimes in some scenarios it is, but most of the time we have to have this baseline level of activity in place, right? And it should be one of the most important activities that you undertake in your business outside of delivering your services. So after delivering your services, the next most important thing you should be doing is marketing your business. And there is a misconception, or I should say there is not a misconception, but there is this sort of, I would say that a lot of people, when we talk about marketing, immediately assume that all marketing is somewhat tied to social media, or that social media is the predominant way to market your business. And this is really interesting to me because having supported so many studio owners over the years, from a marketing perspective, often from a business perspective, we track all of the numbers. We refine marketing messaging, we refine marketing strategies, and social media absolutely has a place in your kind of marketing plan as a whole, but it doesn't necessarily bring you the most immediate results, right? And so it doesn't necessarily lead directly to, it's not the fastest, I would say it's not the fastest path to increased revenue unless you're putting perhaps some degree of spend behind it. So unless you're advertising on some of the platforms, you often will see better returns if you're in that scenario. Organically, we tend to use social media for other things, nurturing relationships, sharing a brand message, and so on. And the truth is that when it comes to social media, the best way for you to use it is to increase that brand awareness, increase that visibility, and get people engaging with your content, because these platforms, for the most part, want people to be engaging with each other on there. So if you are simply posting a post to social media and then leaving the platform, and that post is not compelling or engaging at all, then unfortunately, the algorithm is going to perhaps start to see you as perhaps not someone who they want to highlight as often. Because let's face it, you may post every single day, and the chances of every single one of your followers seeing your post is absolutely zero, because the algorithm chooses who to show your posts to, and this is just the world we live in. So we have to just be aware of the fact that even if we post to social media, it doesn't necessarily get seen by our followers, which is one of the reasons why it's not that effective at generating revenue quickly for your business, right? So when we look at marketing and we look at all the tools that you have in your marketing toolkit, social media is one of those tools, but it's not the only tool, which means that we should be spending time on perhaps things that generate revenue faster for our business, generate revenue quicker, and perhaps even generate more revenue. But there is certainly a place for social media, and it does benefit your business, and it does help to create that connection with a lot of your existing clients and beyond that as well. So it's often quite challenging actually to measure whether or not your social media efforts are paying off, unless you are, like I said, running advertisements to your business and inside of the Meta Ads Manager or on other platforms as well. Then that's when you'll start to see whether or not you're getting a return on your investment, or you're getting any return on your time spent on social media as well, because you can track the activities more easily. So we want to make sure that when you're spending time on social media, you know what the purpose is, you know why you're posting, you know what you want to get out of that activity. And you want to make sure that you're not spending so much time on social media that it's taking away from perhaps spending time on other activities that are more closely linked to revenue generation. So you have to be careful. You have to be intentional. You have to be thoughtful about which marketing activities you spend your time and money on. Okay. So when it comes to how effective is social media at making money for your studio, at generating revenue for your business, yes, it is effective, but it's not typically an immediate spike or increase or boost to your revenue. But it does have a very significant place in your overall marketing strategy, and it should not be ignored at all. So I always recommend that you have a presence on social media, that you are thoughtful about your posts, and depending on your skills and your resources and so on, the amount of time that you dedicate to social media will depend on how effective you can reach the right people and compel them and encourage them and support them in taking action and becoming your client or engaging more with your studio. So you want to make sure that you are being very aware of that time. Okay. The second question I get asked often about social media is, which platforms should I use? Should I use all the platforms? Should I just be on one or two platforms? What's the best place for me to be? And this is interesting. This has kind of this is all very gray answers. I'm sorry, there's no black and white here. There's no single correct answer, but a lot of it will depend on your business model, and most importantly, your clients, right? So it might be really tempting to create an account on, the latest social media platform, right? And start to perhaps play in that space with videos or editing different things and the different trends and getting involved. And if you have got a lot of time on your hands and you enjoy it, then by all means, just do that, right? I'm not here to say don't do it. But what I have found is that we want to avoid doing things for the sake of doing things when it comes to our business, because we want the time that we're spending on our marketing to be effective, which means that we want to make sure you're going to get a return on the time invested. So that means ultimately that the time you're investing on social media, the things you're doing on social media, is going to bring you revenue, bring you clients, bring you awareness, build your brand. And so we don't want to just fall into the trap of keeping up with the Joneses just because someone else is on there, someone else is posting this way, someone else is doing this. We want to make sure that whatever platform you're choosing 100% makes sense for your business, right? And if you've got a limited time, you want to get super strategic about the platforms that you're choosing to spend your time on, because every platform requires slightly different types of content or prefers slightly different types of content. And so although it would be lovely to post the same exact thing across all platforms, the reality is that you are going to need to edit and adjust according to each platform. And so when you take that into consideration, you might find that it's more effective for you to pick maybe one to three platforms to focus on first, especially if you're the one who is doing a lot of the doing, or you're directing one other person to do it. And if you're creating all of that content, it can become this beast and can become overwhelming very quickly. And I don't want that for you. And I don't think there's any need for you to be in that place at all. So we want to make sure that we're picking platforms that are beneficial for your business. So which platforms are most beneficial for your business? Well, if you think about your business model or your business as a made up of, what you do inside of your studio and the clients that you want to reach with that outside of your studio, then you're looking for the place where the two can overlap and interconnect. And so the most important place for you to be online is where your clients are. So whichever platforms that your ideal client uses is probably where you should start. And what you'll find is that probably is one or two platforms typically, right? And so I would start there. And then, as you develop the systems and the processes and you hire and you delegate, you might be able to expand to an even wider range of platforms that might be beneficial for your business as well. Okay. So we want to make sure when it comes to the different platforms that you're choosing the platform that is going to most benefit your business. All right. So the final part of making sure that you're following best practices when it comes to social media is having some sort of a system in place for creating the content that you need and posting that content to social media. Okay. Because what we know is that you have got a very limited amount of time. And I don't want you to be doing this work late at night or early in the morning, or when you could be working out or with your family or doing other things that you love and enjoy. So how do we make sure that we make the most of the time that we have and make sure that it brings results? Well, I'm a big fan of having systems and processes. And one of the things that I teach inside of my marketing intensive program, and that I support my studio owners inside of my Thrive program, is creating a system and a process around content that you create for your marketing, and including your social media marketing. So what I would like to share with you just as a starting point is that you are going to probably need to layer into your marketing activities. And I would encourage you to get comfortable with posting a certain amount on a certain platform to start with before you expand into other platforms and posting more often. Okay. Because you will be more likely to be successful. You're also going to learn a lot about what works for your business and what works for your clients and what's effective for your business. Okay. So you want to chip away at your work your kind of way up the staircase, I would say, perhaps and in terms of your marketing activities and how you're creating your content for your social media and all of your other marketing activities, right? So one of the things that I recommend you do is to carve, number one, this is absolutely, I cannot go any further without saying this is the most important thing you can do for your business and your marketing, is to put it on the calendar. All right. Without a doubt, this is often, where it just you will fall flat without even starting, honestly. You can have every fantastically good intention to get the thing done. But if it's not on the calendar, over and over and over again, I just see studio owners struggle because they haven't carved out the time to dedicate to marketing. And this is not something that you want to put off until the end of the day or late at night, especially if it's something that you don't enjoy that much. It's something that you want to just put it at a time where you know you can be productive and you know that you're going to have focus. So if that is the morning time, then please carve out an hour or two once a week or once a month to focus on your marketing plans and your marketing activities. Okay. So we want to make sure that you take that time effectively, which is when you're going to create some content and also plan out your month or your week ahead in terms of that content. So we want to take that hour to batch create. So we create a batch of content for the week or a batch of content for the month. And you are going to then plan what you want to say each day and each week, and have perhaps themes around the days and the weeks. I talk about this inside of my marketing intensive. I have multiple video trainings on it, and we go through it step by step, because it may sound like a big deal, but once you break it down, it really is quite simple and very straightforward. And once you have that batch of content, which you can then take that and you can use a scheduling tool to schedule out your posts, which means that you're not sitting there every day trying to post something and sitting there in between clients struggling to find the right copy or the right thing to say or the right caption to write or the right thing to add to the reel, right? We want to make sure that you're able to focus on what you want to focus on while you're teaching, and then you want to carve out time separately for your marketing. Right? So you want to batch your content, and then you want to use the softwares that are available to make your life really easy when it comes to your social media. And that means perhaps using a tool like Later or Plan or Planoly, or even the ones that exist inside of Meta, the business suite in there, or Canva has a tool to help you as well. These will all help you to sort of map out and then pre-schedule those posts to be posted automatically. Highly recommend that. It will save you hours of time, and it will just take the pressure off. No matter what stage of business you're at, this I highly, highly recommend. Okay. Now, the third thing I recommend you doing is you kind of make a list of types of content. So perhaps you have one day a week where you have a quote, perhaps one day a week where you have a tutorial, and you kind of rotate through those types of content, which will help you to perhaps create the content more easily. So we know that when you stare at a blank piece of paper, it's very hard to come up with something that's fun and creative. But when you have some sort of structure, it actually is way easier. So I highly recommend that you have some sort of themes for each day of the week or each week of the month, however you tend to plan out your content. And that will help you to create those content in the batching sessions, make it much, much easier. Okay. Now, when you get rolling with this system, you will find that it becomes simpler and simpler to implement, and you might find yourself wanting to elevate to some extra next level strategies, right? And so what you'll find is having that structure in place actually gives you more freedom to do more of what you want to do, either in your marketing or in your business or in your personal life, right? And so managing your systems in this way, managing your marketing in this way will save you a ton of energy and a ton of time as well. All right. So we definitely want to make sure we've got some sort of system in place, and that starts with putting it on the calendar. I cannot emphasize. Did I say it enough already? Sorry. All right. So just a quick recap for you. So number one, when it comes to social media, I want you to think about how the time that you're spending on there relates to the amount of revenue that you're generating from that platform. And then be thoughtful about all of the different marketing activities that you undertake in your business, and just make sure that you are spending time on perhaps others that may generate more revenue for you. Okay. And it may be social media, in which case continue as you are, but it might be other things as well. So just make sure that we aren't focusing in the wrong place. The second thing is we want to make sure you're focusing on platforms that help your business to grow, which means that you have to be on platforms where you know your clients are active as well. Okay. And then thirdly, we want to make sure that we have a system in place for creating the amazing content that you're going to share with your audience, that it doesn't take up so much time, and so that it makes it easy for you to be creative. And that also means that you are able to be as efficient with your own time, so that you have more time to do awesome other things in your business. All right. So there you have it. Some best practices for social media marketing. How to overcome perhaps that myth that we should be spending more and more time on social media, how to decide which platforms to focus on, and how to systematize the process so that it costs you and your studio less time. Okay. By the way, if you want to take a deeper dive into creating a system for your social media efforts, please go back a little bit and listen to episode 76 of my podcast, where my amazing studio owner, who has been with me for a little while now, Kim Casto, she shares how she organizes her marketing like a well-oiled machine. So I'm going to link to it in the show notes. I really encourage you to go back and listen to that wonderful episode. All right. So I hope this is helpful to you as you build your boutique fitness business. If you love what you're hearing today, I would be so incredibly appreciative if you could just take a quick minute, go to wherever you're listening to this and rate and review this podcast. It really would mean a ton to me.